Well, welcome back to Virginia This Morning, live right here on CBS 6. Did you know what love languages in distant times means? Recently, Jessica spoke with an expert who shares all the details. Here is that conversation.
We're joined today by Dr. Gary Chapman, New York Times best-selling author of the 5 Love Languages. He will be visiting Richmond soon. Today, we're talking about the love languages in these distant times. It's great to see you, Dr. Chapman. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Well, thank you, Jessica. It's good to be with you.
We are looking forward to having you in Richmond. You'll be here for 2 very special presentations brought to us by the Relationship Foundation of Virginia, talking about the art of the apology and the language of apology, and then talking also about raising children in a screen-driven world. 2 very important conversations.
Looking forward to being there. You know, I've been with that group before and appreciate what they're doing in the city.
Everybody has the chance to get tickets for each of those events. We'll include a link later today on our website so that they can come. You can enjoy those in person and certainly as a virtual experience too. But today, Dr. Chapman, we're talking about talking with each other and using language during this time of distance times. You know, it's interesting because we're spending so much more time together, which is unusual. What are you seeing these days?
Well, what I'm finding is a lot depends in terms of a marriage. It depends on where they were before all of this started. If they had a fairly good marriage, they're making the most of this and discussing things they haven't discussed in a long time. If they were troubled, it's probably even more troublesome now because when you're pressed together day after day, it can be very stressful. So, yeah, I think it depends on the couple. But what I try to do is encourage people, let's make the most of these days. You know, if things aren't going well, maybe this is the time to just sit down and say to yourself, hey, we can make this better. And maybe I should begin by just acknowledging my own failures, you know, and let's see if we can get things moving in a positive direction. It's a great time. We've more time to think about it and then take action.
That's a great way of looking at it. It's true. We have more time to think about it, to take action. There are folks who certainly this is not a comfort zone for them. So as you're trying to define that love language to start using, if you need to address some of the topics, what's the best way that you advise getting started?
Well, you know, I think if a couple's not familiar with the love language concept, the basic idea is that what makes one person feel loved doesn't make another person feel loved. And you can be thinking you're loving them and they don't get it emotionally. So you might just go online and take a free quiz. It's at 5lovelanguages.com, the number 5, 5lovelanguages.com. Take the quiz. It will tell you what your primary love language is and what your spouse's primary love language is. Or it can be a friendship, just for that matter, any adults. And then start speaking love in what the language that makes them feel loved. And you will see a difference in the emotional climate in the relationship. It really can change everything when you speak each other's love language.
And that is fascinating, too. If you are able to begin speaking that same language, then you can have an effective conversation.
Yeah, and you communicate, you know, genuinely that you love them. Everybody agrees our deepest emotional need on the human level is the need to feel loved by the significant people in our lives. Whether it's a husband and wife, whether it's a parent-child relationship, whether it's a friendship, or a work relationship. We want to feel appreciated. We want to feel like people value us as an individual, not necessarily for what I do, but just because of who I am. And when that need is met, we are all our best selves. So learning how to communicate love in a way that's meaningful to the other person and they back to you really changes the emotional climate of a relationship.
Absolutely. And Dr. Chapman, we've talked about relationships with partners and spouses, but certainly we're spending a lot more time together as a family. How do you find that effective way of communicating with children, whether they're young or even maybe adult children?
Well, you know, I think it's exceedingly important that parents communicate love to children in a way that's meaningful to the child. Again, I say to parents, the question is not, do you love your children? The question is, do your children feel loved? And most parents are sincere. They love their children, but I can tell you, there's a lot of children that don't feel loved. You know, here's a teenager, he's in my office, he ran away from home. He tells me, my parents don't love me. I knew his parents. I knew they loved him. The problem is they weren't communicating love in the way that was meaningful to him. So whether they're older teenagers or even young adults, or whether they're little children, learning the love language of your children, speaking it on a regular basis, meets that deep emotional need and gives you a bond with that person.
Well, it's incredible talking with you. You make things so poignant and yet so clear. And that really is a simple way of observing and having some perspective. Do your children feel loved? Does your spouse, does your partner feel loved? And begin to develop that way of communicating. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Well, thank you, Jessica. Good to be with you.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to having you right here in Richmond in just a couple of weeks. So we'll be sure to share all that information. Thank you again, Dr. Chapman.
Very good. Looking forward to being there.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. We'll put a link to everything you'll want to know on WTVR.com/VTM so that you can take part in both conversations that Dr. Chapman will be part of for the Relationship Foundation of Virginia.
Mark your calendars on Tuesday, June 21st at 9:30 a.m. The Relationship Foundation of Virginia presents Raising Relational Kids in a Screen-Driven World featuring Dr. Gary Chapman. It's at U-Turn located at 2101 Maywell Street right here in Richmond. 50 live tickets available for $40. Tickets for virtual stream are $25. Signed copy of Growing Up Social is $20. Our own Jessica Knoll will be the MC for the event, and on July 20th at 7:30 p.m. enjoy the 5 Languages of Apology featuring Nicole Eunice. For more information, visit socialva.org.